Hello and welcome to Gardening at 58 North. So in this video I'm going to do another update video on my money plant collection. The Latin name for these is Crassula ovata, and some of you might know these as Jade plants as well. So it's been a year since I've done the same video as this, and that was actually one of my most popular videos. I did that just over a year ago now. And it'll be good if you want to click, there should be a link in the bottom of this video so that you can see what it looked like a year ago. And I've had quite a lot of growth from some of them. They've done really quite well, especially this one here, which is my biggest, definitely my favourite money plant. So I'll say pretty much the same as I did in the last video. So, but just so any of the recent changes as well. So these are actually all the same age, these plants, which is the most unusual thing about it, I would say. So what happened is I had an original mother plant, which I've done a few other videos on. If you click through, you should be able to find some about that one. About 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, I took a lot of cuttings when I was pruning that. I took all the leaf cuttings here. You can see that they're still really small. And what happened is all these have actually come out of this tray. So what it is these have been in a small tray. I barely ever water this one. And in fact, there was one point I went for several months, over 6 months, without watering this. It also doesn't get much sunlight either, so they stay very small and shrunken, and they only grow maybe 2 leaves a year, if that. So it's really very slow growing. But this one here, I've been giving this one probably the best soil and attention that I can. This year hasn't had quite the best, and the reason for that is because I don't have any more space in the windowsill for a bigger pot, so I've actually not increased the pot size. The first year that I haven't increased the pot size for this. So the growth has slowed a little bit, but as you can see it's grown a lot more since last year, so it's still growing really well. And the reason this one is so much bigger than these little cuttings is simply the fact that these have had no water, barely at all, no feed whatsoever, and not much light, whereas this has got lots of feed, lots of water, lots of light. Same with this one over here, which has also grown a lot, but this was just taken out of this tray, I think 2 years after this one was, so this one's 2 years behind. So you can see there, it's got a lot of good growth. Since I last showed you it, in last year's update, I think, it's grown a lot more top growth. Its size now has been limited quite a lot by the size of the pot. This is quite a small pot, but I'm not going to change the pot because it's a nice, very nice looking pot. It's got the passion flower on it, and also because I don't have the space for these plants to get too much bigger. So I'll keep it in this one. As you can see, it's got quite a lot of leaf cuttings, which have just naturally come up. I mean, I haven't actually planted these myself, they've just naturally sprouted up. When the leaves have fallen off, they've just kind of rooted themselves. That one's doing quite well. The other ones I have, which I think was also in the other video, are the ones in the shell. These haven't grown a lot because I haven't really been watering these much, and they keep falling out the shell as well, unfortunately, so it's a bit difficult. But I haven't watered this actually for about 3 or 4 months now, and you can see the leaves, how flat they are. They're very flat at the moment, so I'm probably going to be watering this again soon. I might try putting some more soil in here, try and anchor it better in the shell. I might make a video about that because at the moment it's a bit loose and it keeps falling out and it's not looking at its best. So the one that wasn't in the video last time, I think it was this little one here. I put it in a bonsai pot. I thought I'd try and make it into a bonsai, but instead of the usual method that I use, which is I grow them quite large and then I cut them back hard to make them have a wider trunk, I've actually started this small, and what I'm doing is I keep nipping out the top until I had 2 shoots here, and these shoots, what I'm doing is I keep nipping them out until they've also got 2 shoots. So you can see this one's only got the 1 at the moment, whereas this one does actually have 2, one up there and a tiny one there. So I'll just keep doing that, and just every time they put 2 leaves on, I'll keep nipping out the shoots, so hopefully it'll branch and branch, so 2 will become 4, 4 become 8, so forth. And it's had a few leaf cuttings that have kind of spontaneously grown out of the soil from where a couple of the lower leaves have fallen out, and I'll probably be taking them off. It's interesting to see how fat the leaves are on this. They are very fat. I think that's because all the energy, instead of being put into growth, it's just kind of concentrating in the leaves and the roots, and the shoots and the leaves, so it seems to have fattened up a lot, which is quite nice. So yeah, this is, I'll go back to my favourite one here. It's looking really good this year, and it weighs, I don't know how much, probably 5 kilograms or something. It's a lot of weight. A lot of that is the pot, but also you can see how many leaves are on it. It's really a lot of mass to it. So I've tried for the last 2 years to get this to flower. This year I tried again but unfortunately I was unsuccessful. I still think it might be too young. I've actually had plants that are smaller than this flower, but they were at least 10 years old, whereas this one's only 4 years old, so it's still a very young plant. Despite looking like quite a mature plant, it is only about 4 years old. But you can see the trunk is looking really good now. It's really starting to get quite thick and fat. And I'll just rotate this around so you can see the other side. It does seem to be sending up quite a few shoots from lower down, so I might actually prune these off later on, because I'm not entirely sure what shape I'm going for. But as you can see, the general shape is actually very nice. So I've never actually pruned this plant. The reason why it's wider this way than this way is because I have it on a windowsill, so that when it's growing against the glass, this gets pushed up, and naturally that makes it stay in and grow sideways more, which is why it's got this kind of slightly different shape. But that will continue as I rotate it around the window, so it will get wider and wider. It won't really grow much the other way, and it will get taller as well. So it might detract a bit from the shape of it, but I simply don't have the space to allow it to grow bigger. So I'll try again next year, next autumn, to try and get this to flower, and I'll do what I've done the last few years, which is leave it on the balcony, try and get it as cold as possible, give it a high feed in potassium, and see if I can get it to grow some nice flowers. Hopefully one year I'll get to do it. I might tweak it slightly this year, maybe a bit less fertiliser. I might have overdone it with the feed, but I'll see how it does. And yeah, I'm generally very happy with it. And my main goal is just get this as big as possible. But as I say, it will be a bit more tricky the next few years, because this is as big as a pot as I can really get it in on my windowsill. So when it comes to watering these, I actually water them a lot more than you think I might. So I find with the money plants here, when it's summertime, if you give them quite a lot of water, they will respond really well and put on a lot of growth. As well as if you feed them a lot, they'll put on a lot of growth and do well. They are succulents and they are native from dry areas, but just because they are native from a dry area doesn't mean that they like to be dry all the time. They actually like to have plenty of water, but they are very susceptible to root rot. So I would never water this like I would water a normal plant. Okay, I say I give it a lot of water. I do always let it dry out between waterings. I would never water this if it was already damp. If I was to water this, say every few days, and I kept it constantly damp, then I would have a lot of problems. The roots would start to rot off and it would just die. The leaves would go yellow and that would be the end of my plant. So although I say I water it a lot, I do wait for the soil to dry out. But to be honest, in midsummer, with this plant being so thirsty, I can water this and just 2 or 3 days later it's bone dry again. So I know I'm happy to give it another soaking. Come winter though, I don't have to water this for maybe 2 or 3 months. And even when I do water it after that, it stays damp for quite a long time. So I've got to wait another 2 weeks or so until I water it again. So as I say, when you read the information in books, it often says, you know, maybe water it once a month or keep it quite dry because it's an arid plant. What I would say is actually check the compost. If the compost is bone dry, then water it. If the compost is damp, then leave it. And you'll be surprised at how often you can actually water these plants, and they will just grow a lot bigger and healthier because of that. So I think that's it for my money plant update. I'll do another one as these are progressing. The next one I'll probably do is a pruning one for this, because I'm thinking maybe taking a few branches off, as I'd like this to look like a massive tree, and some of the little branches are a bit odd looking for that effect. I'll keep going with my bonsai effect. This one I probably won't update much, not really much going on there. And I also want to repot my one in the shell because it's starting to fall out. So I'll probably do a repotting video on that. Maybe even a time lapse when I water it again, because you can see how thin the leaves are there. It'll be interesting to see that soak up. I know as the year goes on, every now and again I might take one of these out and pot it into a plant, give it as a gift or something, we'll see. But there we are, that's it for my money plant collection, and hopefully I'll have many more years of growing happy money plants.